tonight in Oslo, where our very special guest is, and we also have a bonus interviewer to join in the fun. So it's our EPS self-quarantine, self-isolation lockdown happy hour. We have got EPS moderator Chris Sutherland to introduce you. He is just off I don't know if it's an evacuation flight. You actually have to point the other way. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, no. You're pointing to the wrong direction. So we've got Chris Sutherland here. Welcome.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me. Great to finally meet you.
And our surprise interviewer, who knows Chris a lot better than I do. I felt embarrassed because Chris and I have, in a sense, had a working relationship when he presented himself as an EPS moderator candidate. I said, absolutely, in your time zone, your enthusiasm is perfect for us. But we've also got Miles Walker here of British Columbia that knows him a lot better. So we decided that we would throw double forces at interviewing Chris. It's 3 a.m. in Oslo, so we will keep him awake between the two of us.
Fantastic.
So where were you flying from and to get out and get to where you're going? And I think that's a lead into the lifestyle you've created for yourself.
Yeah, so I was just hanging out in Philippines, and my original plan was to have a couple of weeks in Ukraine and Belarus around about now before I started working in Norway. But obviously that didn't work out. So I was just going to sit in Philippines for maybe another month or so, but then things were just getting worse and worse every day, just more and more bad news. So I felt that it was time to go, and I put my name on a mailing list from the British Embassy, and they sent me a message and said, we have a flight. They usually only give you maybe 2 days notice, 3 days notice. And yeah, so I got really lucky and got probably one of the last flights out, I think. So yeah, it was from Cebu to Manila and then Manila to London. And that was about $1,000, so not too bad. And then I had to fix the flight to get to Oslo. And I was really worried about that because, you know, a lot of flights are getting canceled and stuff, but it was actually super easy. There was only 3 or 4 options. There was Wizz Air, Lufthansa, and KLM. And I ended up going with Lufthansa, and absolutely no problems, no cancellations or anything. So yeah, traveling at the moment was just as easy as usual, and the prices were pretty much the same. The Wizz flight was like $70 from London to Oslo, so I ended up paying $260 with Lufthansa. But
now, those few I know that have had to travel recently have talked about how almost unsettling it can be to be in these empty airports. Even just the sound is almost gone. What was that feeling like?
I think it was pretty normal. I didn't really notice that much difference apart from being quieter and people having masks. It was to go from Philippines where the masks were compulsory. It was strange to arrive in London where they have so much bigger problem, and probably only about half of the staff had masks. So that I wasn't expecting that. And then I ended up getting grilled at the immigration in London with the British passport for a Somaliland stamp, which I thought was just an American thing, but he really gave it to me for about 5 minutes of questioning and stuff. So
what kind of stuff did you ask?
Just why we were there and that kind of thing, but I really wasn't expecting it at all. I didn't think it would be a problem, especially when they have more important things to worry about. They didn't ask if I'd been to China recently or those kinds of questions.
Yeah,
and also getting into Norway.
The U.S. passport, but yeah, I would think like they wouldn't be so chatty right now. It'd be just like I was driving the other day, just our grocery shopping for every other week, and Seattle has a few strange intersections, and I was coming out of the lot, and unintentionally I ended up taking a very, very late left turn on a light that suddenly had become red. And I looked, the car directly across facing me was a police car. And I thought any other time that would have been at least a discussion. And it was like, the guy turned his head and was like, not today.
The one thing
There
you
was-
don't do is mess with the American police. That's what I always say.
That's for sure.
So you've gotten yourself to Oslo, and this is part of your routine. So what does a normal year in your location and your career look like? Because I'm fascinated by that, and I think the group will be as well.
Yeah, it has been kind of broken into three parts. So for the last 10 years, I've been working in Norway, and it started out about 8 months a year, and then I would shave one off. So then it became 7, and then it became 6, and then it became 5. And now I've kind of settled on 4. So Norway is very seasonal. Like when the sun comes out, the place goes crazy, and there's so much work and stuff. And then when it's winter, there's not so much. So 4 months is perfect, and they're happy for you to only be there that long. So you don't have to worry about lying that you're going to stay longer or sneaking off and stuff. So yeah, that works really well. So I just go into lockdown mode and just work like crazy, like as many hours as possible, usually maybe a bit around 300 hours a month cooking. And usually sorry?
What do you cook?
Just whatever is going. And just it depends where you're working, just whatever's on the menu. Yeah, so yeah, about 4 months in Norway, and then 4 months in Cebu. That's my second home, where I bought a couple of condos there maybe 10 years ago. And yeah, I just love it. It's just the perfect place. Everybody speaks English. The weather's amazing. Everybody's so nice. There's so much good food around. Like maybe the local food's not so great, but it doesn't matter because you've got 2 Thai restaurants here and 2 Indians there, and you know.
Now, for people that maybe have only experienced, say, Manila and then some island beach resort, talk about Cebu as a destination to visit.
The city itself is not really very exciting. Like there's not a lot to do, but it's a great jump off point. You have so many things close by, like the whale sharks in Oslo, which I've done 2 times, and I think is just one of the most incredible things you can ever do, swimming with these majestical beasts.
Majestical, that's the word.
But they really are. They just glide under you and brush past you and touch you and stuff. So it's really, really special. Then you've got Bohol, which has the little like Tajir monkeys and stuff, and just so many incredible beaches and just piled with nature to the max. So yeah, a lot of things to do. And then Palawan, that's really one of the best places that I've been as well. Very.
And what's the expat scene
special.
like there? Is there a lot of expats?
Yeah, so many. But most of them are working, actually. It's not like they're there to party. It's a lot of call centers and a lot of Australians, especially because it's so close and easy for them to get to. And so yeah, call centers and IT are the 2 big jobs. Yeah.
In terms of visas, so is this something that you're able to stay that long because you own property, or is it very flexible?
No, that doesn't help in that sense, but they have a better system than other countries like Thailand or something. Like Philippines, you get a month free on arrival, pretty much, most people. And then you can just pay and extend up to 18 months, I think. You don't have to leave, which is something that you don't get anywhere else, but it's going to cost you like that. I think the second extension is about $400. So, the third, sorry.
And can you just fly out and fly back in and reset the clock, or that becomes a problem?
Yeah, you can do that anytime. So yeah.
And how about Norway? Go ahead, Miles.
I said, what are the closest hubs from that you would fly in and out of, or would you always just pay?
To probably Singapore or Malaysia.
Hong Kong? Oh, Malaysia. Okay.
Oh, Hong Kong, yeah, also. But Norway, I'm lucky that I have the New Zealand passport, but I have the British passport as well. So with the British passport, that gives me the right to work there. So hopefully that continues. I think I've been here long enough now that it's okay. So I've been coming to Norway for 12 years now. So it's a long time. But,
and I would assume they pay handsomely in their economy. That's good money to earn for the rest of the year.
You'd be surprised. Like, I mean, yeah, I guess it is, but it's not incredible. It's not.
I'm thinking of the Thai family running the Thai restaurant up in Svalbard, which is a little different Arctic Treaty member,
sure.
But the price they were charging was high end.
Have you been all over Norway then, Chris? Have you seen it all?
Yeah, no, not really, because every time I come, it's just put your head down and work. But yeah, I've been to Bergen and Flam and up to Trondheim, so a little bit. But
no
so many.
Svalbard?
No, unfortunately. Okay. But so many amazing. Like Norway is such an incredibly beautiful country. It really is. It's really perfect. It's a little expensive, obviously, but apart from that, it's got everything. So yeah, then the last 4 months is travel time. So yeah, an even spread of the 4 months working, 4 months just relaxing in Cebu, because that doesn't really cost anything. Like when you just sit somewhere, you're not using taxis and hotels and eating out all the time. I have a scooter there, so I can just drive around, no problem. And yeah, I cook all the time. And then you stay in an apartment, which is obviously a lot cheaper than hotels. So yeah, that works well. And then the last 4 months is just for travel. So
I think you said you have condos in Cebu, so I think you're gonna have a few volunteers that are ready to adopt your lifestyle if they've got compatible passports. That's how did you come up with this idea of, at some point you were I guess finishing high school, let's say, and how did you get from you're graduating high school to a lifestyle like this?
I had a Swedish girlfriend who was in New Zealand for 1 year on exchange, so we were together pretty much the whole time. And then she went back to Sweden, and she's like, so I was like 17 at that time, and she's like, come here. And I'm like, what? I can't just go there. What are you talking about? And she's like, why not? You have money, you don't have any real commitments there. So I'm like, okay. So basically 2 months later, I jumped on a plane and went straight to Sweden. So that was the catalyst for everything.
How much cash did you have when you went? Like, were you flat, or were you just okay?
No, I was pretty good at that time. Okay. So yeah.
So you had over $100. Over $100. Yeah. Okay.
A little bit more. So, yeah. But yeah, it ended up working perfectly. I had stayed in Sweden just hanging out for 9 months, I think, in total.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I needed to go somewhere else, so I decided London was the obvious choice. So I just went there and got some bar work, which was obviously super fun. And then I was doing temp bar work, and they put me into one place and said, do you want to work full time? And I said, no, it's not worth it money-wise. So they said, do you want to cook? And I'm like, I can't cook anything. Like, I can't cook, instant noodles. And they're like, it's no problem. It's microwaving and
it's British food, right?
Yeah, deep frying frozen food. So she said, I'll be
good food, I tell you.
She said, I'll be with you for the first week. And she was with me the first day, and then I never saw her again. And that was it. So yeah, then it's just been small steps up from there. So
it would seem like with that lifestyle, almost everybody would have it be 6 months of the Norway and 6 months of the Cebu. So how did the ambitious travel, the pursuit of extreme destinations, how did that come to be?
Yeah, good question. It just kind of, I think I got to about 100 countries, and then I realized that I wanted to start doing all of them. So then just started going off the list,
How long ago was that, Chris?
Probably 2 or 3 years. So
okay.
I think when I started EPS, I was at about 130 countries or something. And yeah, that's when the light bulb moment.
Well, you say that casually, but you don't get to 130. I mean, if you're traveling around
Yeah.
Europe, maybe you're getting to 30, 40 by happenstance, but you didn't get to 130 by happenstance. So what was
Yeah.
what got you to 130? We can see you're a soft-spoken guy, but you're also an EPS moderator, so everybody wants to dig into your life and pull out how these casual asides, how they are.
I think because I'm lazy and I work so little that I just had time and just floated in different directions. And of course, you did the easy ones first, so it wasn't such a big deal. But yeah, I just wanted to see something different each time, and yeah, just all of a sudden ended up there. So yeah, it wasn't like a major plan from the start.
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, Stefan was the reason why you actually finished 193 then.
Yeah, I have him to thank. I'd actually made the idea just before I went on to EPS. I had the idea that I would do it. I think because I saw how few people had done it, and I was just shocked at the time that it was like 150 people. I was like, wow, that's nothing. So yeah, and then I decided that I wanted to go to Libya. So I went on to TripAdvisor and found a trip report about Libya written by Malcolm Snowden. So I contacted him, and he's like, "Oh, have you heard of EPS? That's a great place to go." So yeah, that was what sent me in the EPS direction. So he's the
and Luis Cabrera saying, "I always knew there were two Chris Sutherland." So that's how you're able to be online so often. So that Libya trip, how did you pull it off?
Yeah, that was just recently, but my God, that was so much hard work. Definitely no country caused so much headache and so much stress. Like there's only the one company that can do it, basically, SureWest now, and they're everything. They're just like, yeah, no problem, no problem. Just send your passport to Rome, and we'll fix it. And everything was like, hey, yeah, next week, next week. And I'm like, dude, I'm leaving in a couple of days. And it really got down to the wire, and I ended up getting my passport back basically the day before I was flying, of course, as usual. So yeah, super lucky. And I had the 3-day trip with them, and then as I was about to leave, it was like we were supposed to leave at 4 p.m. and it was like 3, and I can see somebody, they've received a phone call and they're talking very, like they looked concerned, and they're like, remember that blast that we heard this morning? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that was at the airport. So the airport's closed. And I'm like, no, because I had a stack of flights lined up after that. I wasn't worried about the security situation or something. I was just worried that everything was going to fall apart. So they went to the airport, trying to communicate what's going on. And so they put me back in the hotel, and I ended up having to stay just one extra night. And then we had to drive all the way to the other airport, which is, I think, 4 hours away, and buy a new ticket and stuff. And that meant that I lost my flights. I was going to Chile from there, of all places. It had to be complicated. So yeah, I managed to change the dates on that, but I lost the in-between flights to Madrid. So yeah.
Did you fly out of Benghazi?
No, you can't go there now.
Okay.
Only Tripoli, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my great travel regrets is I visited what turned out to be just a few in the last few months of the Gaddafi era, and I could have gone anywhere on the list, and I had a very ambitious 10, 12-day trip all planned out.
Oh, wow.
The permits and needing to be with the guides and the prices of the few operators at the time, I scaled it way back. I did enter overland from Tunisia and saw parts of Western Libya, but I didn't go to the east and didn't go to the far south just because of costs, and I regret it.
Yeah, really.
I was going to say, if anyone hasn't read that, it's an incredible book. Where are we here? There we go. I just had it beside me. I read it about a year ago. It's a great book about Libya, the history, the culture, and it's done through basketball, just in case anyone wanted to I can send you the link, Stefan, if you guys want it.
Yeah, you can just put it in the comments to the post here. So I can do it. I'll pull it up. So it's called Gaddafi's Point Guard, and I will stick it into the comments there.
Cool,
yeah. Oh, looks good.
I'm gonna check if it's on Kindle Unlimited. Those of us that are based in the U.S. that have a some of their cards, like the platinum cards, there's a bonus that they just launched for May through December for streaming services, $20 a month per card, and Kindle Unlimited is one of them. So I'm gonna. Oh, cool. We have five Amex Platinums in the family, which I know is excessive, but I can get, and I don't have any interest in any of the streaming. Maybe Netflix. So
nice.
After Libya, did you make it to Chile?
Yeah, a couple of days late, so I lost a couple of days there, but yeah, got there in the end.
Okay.
So, yeah, definitely a relief to get everything done before this this situation now, because you wouldn't want to be stuck on like 192 or something. That would just drive you crazy for a couple of years.
Yeah, and I was stuck on 191 for over 2 years.
You had some interesting.
It was a different thing. I realized a lot of people were suffering, so I shouldn't be feeling selfish or sorry for myself. But that, this is a very global thing, and I can know that frustrated. I'd almost given up on Syria, actually, because, well, I think you can tell the Basel story is better than I, but I had tried through that and channels, and I'd pretty much given up until one of our moderators, Petra, she had gave me a new contact. So, Chris, tell us your Syria adventure.
Yeah, so at that time, I can't even remember when it was, maybe 2 years ago or so, but basically nobody could go unless they were going with this Mohammed from VIP, who would just go to Damascus for a couple of days. And I just went on Facebook and searched Syrian tour guides, and straight away Basil's site popped up with this, really nice, expensive site. And I contacted him and said, "What's the deal?" And he's like, "I can get you a visa, no problem." And I was like, "Okay, this sounds dodgy." Yeah. He's like, "Just send $300 to Syria, and I'll fix it." And I'm like, "Yeah, what reassurances do I have?" And he's like, trust me, no problem." So I took a big risk. I took a big risk and sent him the $300. And like 3 days later, I've got the security permission. And of course, then I didn't know if it was real. I'm like, this is too easy. It can't be this easy. Like nobody else can do it. So I sent it to somebody who sent it to Mohammed from the VIP thing, and he said, "Yeah, that looks legit." And yeah, sure enough, it worked. So yeah, and at that time, I went by myself. Like this was before the rule of needing to have a guide, and I had 6 days or 7 days. Went from Damascus up to in Damascus. I met a couple of people. One kid, Bruno from Croatia, and I decided that I wanted to go to Aleppo, and I wasn't worried about the idea at all. But then the night before, we're having drinks, and Basil's telling stories about, how bad it was. And then I started getting really scared. So Bruno, who had no plans of going there, I managed to con him into joining me. So I'm like, "Come on, it'll be amazing." So he came with me, and we just got on a bus and went up there. And yeah, I think Basil, we didn't have a guide at all, but Basil then gave us the number of a friend or cousin of his, and we ended up sleeping at his house because we couldn't find a hotel or something. So yeah, from there we went to Homs and Crack Castle, and then I went to Tartus, and then up to Latakia, and then I exited.
Because I don't think too many of the recent spate of tours have made it up on the coast to Tartus and Latakia.
Tartus was okay. It was like a little quite kind of European, like a little beach in Croatia or something like that. Nice little town, very safe and normal. Whereas, and then Latakia, I was really disappointed. It was nothing exciting at all. So,
I've been in Latakia as well. I was not impressed by them. Yeah. I mean,
some brandy or something some local liquor that they're famous for, and that's what all the time. I kept hearing about some liquor they have there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't drink at all in Syria when I was there. Like I had the odd beer, but I mean, we didn't drink much.
That's one thing that absolutely shocked me, how much drinking they do there. There's like bar street. There was so many bars. There was like bottle stores on every corner. There's a real drinking culture, that's for sure. Like you wouldn't expect. Wow. It's big business.
Yeah. Did you get to Palmyra at all or no?
No, back then that wasn't possible. And also Basra. And I tried to go to, I forget what it's called. Did you get there, Stefan? Like an hour from Damascus, the rock villages with the.
That I did, yeah.
What was it called?
Malula.
Malula, yeah. So you needed the permit, but I was determined that I could do it without it. So I took a taxi, and we got past several checkpoints. So I was like, this is easy. And then we got to the last one, and they're just like, no. So we had to turn around and go back. So,
well, that's pretty adventurous. I mean, you had a guide for the rest of the trip, but then you just decided to head out on your own?
No, I didn't have a guide at all. Even the whole time, except Basil gave me the number of this guy in Aleppo who looked after us just for. He drove us then from Aleppo to Homs. So yeah, then the rest I just did by myself. Yeah, not anymore. Doesn't work that way anymore, unfortunately.
I'm a determined solo traveler, but I didn't mind having a guide in Syria. So why? What situation would you have a guide?
I'm not against guides. I just don't want to pay 3 or 4 times the price if I can do it myself. Is usually what it comes down to. But you do get you get more. They know what they're doing. They know where to take you and stuff. So yeah, it's worth it if you've got extra money burning a hole in your pocket.
Yeah, how did you get back to Syria?
And they had changed things, of course, because of other situations by the time I got there last August. But so I don't know how much of an option it was. I mean, I could move around freely in the cities. I don't know how well I would have done in the checkpoints, but I felt like I don't have a reading on the situation, and I don't speak the languages. So in this case, I'll accept as is, and it was a great experience. But
it felt so safe. It really did. Like I didn't feel worried for 1 second. Like even Afghanistan, I would say, in my opinion, that Afghanistan is 10 times more dangerous than Syria now, at least. Like that, I felt scared there most of the time, half the time. But
Syria, tell us about that trip.
Afghanistan, I also went by myself. I had a friend, and he'd been working in the Red Cross in Herat. Originally, I wanted to go to Bamiyan, but that wasn't. There was no flights, so it was impossible to get there. And so I booked a ticket to Herat, and I contacted him, and he's like, I know a friend of a friend who knows this taxi driver, so he gave me his number. So I WhatsApped the guy, and I'm like, can you pick me up at the airport? And he's like, okay, sure. And he's like, where am I taking you? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure out a hotel. He's like, my friend, just stay at my house, no problem. I'm like, okay, cool. So went and stayed at his house, and I ended up spending 4 nights there, and it was absolutely one of the best things I've ever done in my life. He had a couple of beautiful little girls, like so cute, like 4 years old and 6 years old, and they would like wake me up in the morning, like poking me and stuff, like wake up. And it was Ramadan at the time, which obviously wasn't ideal, but the mother was cooking anyway for the kids, so she would just cook extra for me. So I got really lucky food wise. And it was also funny. The house had like 2 levels, and I was staying on the top level. And I'm like, oh, well, when am I going to meet your wife? And he's like, she's so tired from Ramadan and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then I realized after being there like 3 days that I hadn't seen her once, that obviously I wasn't allowed to see her, was the deal. So yeah, so he drove me around most of the time. And yeah, then I flew from there back to Kabul and had 2 days there and then out. So yeah,
what was the feel in Kabul?
That doesn't feel good. That really feels scary. I didn't, you don't want to. You're not in a rush to get out of the car there. It's a different story. But Lovisa KV, who I know you know, Stefan, the Swedish girl, she's actually living there at the moment. So.
And as a teaser, future episode, date to be announced.
Yeah, right, good. I hope so. Amazing girl. I don't know, it's not somewhere I would want to be stuck during the middle of Corona times, but I spoke to her a couple of days ago and she was loving it. So yeah, that would be
something I felt like the time when I flew into Kabul. I mean, I feel so tense and it feels so special, and yet there's people just commuting in, whether they're from Afghanistan or they're aid workers or business, and everybody else on the flight.
So many foreigners at the airport. I was shocked. Like the half of the airport was foreigners.
Is it all aid workers and GIs, or who is it? Who are they?
I don't know. There seems to be a lot of business there as well as NGOs and stuff. I happened to be there at the same time as Melanie Smith, and she was on the tour with Kalza with Untamed Borders. So we were lucky enough to be in Herat at the same time, and we all had dinner together. So yeah, that was really nice. Also, I wasn't expecting that. So nice little finish.
People may not, from the video series, may not realize I'm very shy and very quiet by nature, and I don't see you as incredibly outspoken. So how do you end up staying at people's homes on trips and that? Do you become an extrovert a bit when you're traveling, or what?
Yeah, I guess so. It comes down to finances as well. It's always helpful to, like, I've only couch surfed 3 or 4 times or something, but one of them was Central African Republic, and I was looking online and there was just nothing under like $100, and I'm like, it's a poor country. I'm not paying $100 just on principle, So I jumped on couch surfing and found this guy Desiree, and a couple of people had stayed with him before. So I ended up staying at his house, and again, just absolutely incredible experience that I wouldn't have got if I'd stayed at a hotel. It was funny. There was no lock on the door, so every time I went out, I had to leave my, all my stuff in the house, and there's just no lock. Mm-hmm. And at nighttime, they would stuff a chair up against, like, under the door handle, and then they would stack up some pots on top of it as a makeshift security system. So if somebody tried to get in, all the pots would fall down.
I'm going to trademark that. I like it.
Exactly. So,
how much were you spending a day when you were there? Like you said, you were you weren't on a tour. Like, was it 10 or 15 bucks a day? Like, what were meals in Afghanistan?
This is
this was CAR now, Central African Republic now.
Yeah.
But, the food there was super cheap, but it was hard to find. I think it was like a what do you call it? Like a Lebanese restaurant or something in the middle, and that was basically it. We ended up finding a Camerooni place, and that was like super cheap, like $2 a meal or something. But very hard to find food there. Very hard. So he organized his brother, who had a motorbike, to take me to Mbiki, I think it's called, like about 4 hours away, to visit the Pygmy village there, which was really, really cool and interesting. So,
I went to one of
that
the
experience. That's another country that I unintentionally shorted because I said in another episode that I was getting kicked out of Cameroon and I had to leave, and there was only 2 flights that night, Paris or heading into Dakar. So I took the Bangui flight, and I didn't have time to plan out much, and could only stay 2 days because of other flights I needed to connect to. So tell me how much I missed.
It's just the vibe, I think, like just watching the cars all stacked up and stuff. And the guy that I was the couch surfing host was super cool and picked me up at the airport and looked after me the entire time, like every minute. But yeah, just they'll take like 2 cows and put them on top of each other sideways in a van, and then 10 people stacked up on top of that. It's really unique and just quite beautiful. It's a lot of interesting stuff. It was a really good one. One of the better countries in Africa for sure.
Let's stay in Africa. I know you went to the Voodoo Festival in Benin. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say Benin was the biggest surprise for Africa. Like nobody's really heard of it. It's not a famous place at all. And yeah, I was with Petro at this time, and we started the trip in Nigeria. We had 3 days there, and then went by land to Benin and started in Porto Novo, which is really cool, just a nice colonial little town. Then to Cotonou, which was not so amazing, but then we went up to Ganave with the village, like floating kind of village on the water, which is really, really amazing.
And talk about the scale of
that. It's big, like much bigger than I expected, but the people weren't so friendly there. They weren't digging us taking pictures and stuff. But yeah, you arrive, you pay for a little boat to take you out there, and that also includes the boat that takes you around, and they just drive you around for an hour and a half or something, and then you have lunch at the restaurant and go back.
Was that the first floating village you'd been to? Like, have you been to the one in Sihanoukville in Cambodia or on Siem Reap?
I've been to Sihanoukville, but I don't remember that.
No, sorry, not Sihanoukville, Siem Reap, sorry.
Also, maybe it's 20 years ago. I think.
You remember went to a floating.
I'm trying to figure out your age because you look very young, and yet I keep hearing 42. Like 12 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, 42. So.
Wow, you've got the secret of youth. Tell us about how you look so young. You've just been flying for 30 hours too, and it's
lots of vodka.
in the morning.
Yeah, right, exactly. Lots of vodka. That's the secret. It's keeps you young. Yeah, but so from Cotonou, then we went to Ouida, and this city is just absolutely unbelievable. It was so fantastic. So we had the performance with the ghosts there, where they dress up in these costume kind of things and dance. Then we had the Python Temple, which where they put the snake around your neck and stuff, which is not my thing, but gave it a go.
I saw those photos.
The T-Rex arms, they were calling it. And then we went up to Abomey, which is like there was a lot of temples. It was the former capital. And then back down, and we wanted to do the Voodoo Festival. Like this was something that was really important. And there is a tourist office there, and we asked them about it, and they're like, no, we don't know. Like they just pop up and stuff. And then we asked around the city. We asked so many people, and eventually people started saying, yeah, go to these crossroads somewhere. So we're like, okay. So we walked down to the crossroads, and somebody's like, yeah, tonight, 10 o'clock. So we're like, okay. Then somebody else, nobody's speaking English, of course. And, we're struggling to get the message across. And then someone else is like, yeah, 11 o'clock. So I'm like, okay. Someone else was like 12 o'clock. So I'm like, okay. So back to the hotel, and we're like, we're going to do this. We'd heard about it, and it sounded a bit, scary. But we decided at midnight to head out there. So we jumped on a couple of motorbikes and arrived, and it was just starting. So they were all dressed in their kind of white robes. It was very like the movie Eyes Wide Shut, this whole cult kind of thing. And yeah, they start walking towards the place where they're going to have the ceremony, and we're trying to join in, and we're obviously not very welcome. It's not designed for tourists. And then you've got Petra with her giant camera, which at the time was brand new, and it's got this like laser focus thing or something, like a green dot. So she's pulling out her camera, and this green dot's like flying all over. I'm like, no.
You can't exactly pretend you don't know her at that point.
This wasn't going to work. Yeah, so we followed them to the site, and just the stuff that went on was just incredible. So they killed a couple of chickens, and they're like spreading the blood over around the place, and then a goat, and the same thing, and they're taking the dead chickens, and they're brushing them up against people's faces and stuff like that. And then they get the puppy and the kitten and kill those, and then they just like throw them into this pit just like they're trash. So yeah, it started at midnight, and they said that it went until 5 a.m. But about 3 o'clock we had enough and decided to go home. But really, really crazy, interesting experience. So,
What time of year was that?
that was October just now. So,
and so in West Africa, which is a region that intimidates a lot of travelers, clearly you're not intimidated by logistics and language issues. Is Benin the number one for you?
Number one place to visit, I would say, for sure. The most interesting by a mile, yeah. But as far as getting around goes, like I don't have any French, and I can't imagine what a different experience West Africa would be if you spoke French. Like I think, it would just be 10 times better and 10 times easier and stuff. But yeah, logistics, like coming down from Morocco down, I did one trip and ended up finishing in Liberia, I think. So that was really long, and that was super tough. Like basically the whole thing by land, because flights there are way overpriced. Yeah, just waiting
it's cheaper to fly to Paris than it is to fly next door, right?
Just I don't know how they come up with these prices. Yeah, like an hour flight can be $800. So,
for West Africa, you get most of your visas before or like at the border?
No, I got the problem is I've been in Norway. I've been stuck up in the mountains, so like for me to get to an embassy is just so difficult. And not only that, I don't even have a DHL around to post it,
Sure.
So that really made things tougher. So I've had to get pretty much almost all of them on the way.
Yeah.
So that takes.
And was it Morocco? You got them in Rabat or something, or did you just get them like actually at the border?
Just kind of on the way down. Like I would stop in Dakar and Senegal and get a few there, and then get a couple more here and there. So
yeah.
But are you matching the passports you're using for this, or are you trying to stay on one for a trip?
It's definitely make a huge advantage having two. So you could take one to one embassy and one to the other on the same day. So you could double up and get two in one day if you're lucky.
Have you had any issues where you just exited one place on the British passport, and then you're entering on New Zealand, and people actually check, or does that not come up?
You would think so, but no, it actually hasn't. I don't think. I don't recall any problems with that. So yeah, that's been okay so far. But yeah, West Africa definitely the toughest logistically by far. It was just so much hard work, and I don't have the patience like waiting 4 or 5 hours for these 7-seaters to fill up will drive.
But you won't pay for the 7 seats?
No way.
If there's at least one other person, I'll just pay the rest of the seats if it's going to be the difference of a day of eating and accommodation and all of that.
Yeah,
How
definitely.
long were you in Mali, Chris?
Mali, think about 4 days or something. Mali's a really special place. There's some amazing stuff there. So I started in Bamako and went up to what's it called?
Dogon? Jenne?
Jenne, yeah, Jenne. The again, Jenne is one of these places where it's not just about the main event, which is the mud mosque. The whole city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and the whole city is just amazing. Like, you can just get lost in the little streets, and it's really, really cool.
Neat.
Really great city. And then I exited from there to Burkina Faso by land, and that was super tough, like really, really hard. So that was basically my last hard trip, and it could remain that way forever, I think, because I'm not obligated to do any more super tough land crossings like that.
Was most of West Africa on your own, or did you pick up people along the way?
Yeah, I was pretty much by myself the whole trip then. So this last trip with Petro, we did 5 countries from Nigeria to Benin, then Togo, then Ghana, and then to Sao Tome, and finished there. So yeah, but the previous trip was alone the whole way, and it's hard to pick up people because not many people are around, like foreigners with the same stupid plan. So yeah.
Another trip in Africa that I'm envious of, Ormo Valley, Ethiopia. Talk about that. Many people are up to the north, perhaps, in the Lalibela and that, but maybe
this
not
is
every.
the thing. This is the thing with Ethiopia. It's just got there's no question that it has by far the most to do in Africa. Well, actually, maybe Egypt has a lot as well, but just so much to do. I went north to Lalibela and Gonda, and then up to the Simien Mountains, and then down to Omo Valley. And this is probably the best travel experience I've ever had. Was Omo Valley. Just the tribes there's so many of them, and they're so close together, and they're so completely different. Like you've got the Kara tribe, which is all faces painted and stuff. Then the Mersey tribe with the lip discs. Then the Hamar tribe that to do the bull jumping, where the poor groom has to get naked and jump over a cow for some ridiculous.
That's in Canada as well.
Ridiculous reason. And then the wife whipping, which like they take these sticks and whip the woman's backs until they're bleeding, and the women are just screaming for more. And that's a really crazy experience. And then the Bana tribe, and this one I wasn't expecting so much, and it ended up being the best. The guides that I had were fantastic for this, and they had a friend in this Bana tribe, so we ended up sleeping at his place, and there happened to be a wedding on at the time, so they're just like drinking beer from these cauldrons and stuff. It was just so surreal, and giving me their machine guns to play with, and and then the kids at night, like they said they were giving me a tent, but it was basically just a mosquito net. So you're sleeping under the stars, and I've never slept better. Actually, I remember that I slept for I think 12 hours somehow, which is something I would never ever do anywhere else. But the one time that I'm out in nature, and I had the best sleep in my life. So.
Wow.
But yeah, the kids sang for us before they went to sleep, and it's just, and the whole family just sleeps together in a line under the stars, every night. And then they wake up and they milk the cow. They had a plastic bottle that they just reuse. They never wash it because they don't have water. So it's just this dried up milk from yesterday. Yeah, they just eat whatever's around, grains and stuff. And yeah, just absolutely brilliant. Really, really
Was
good.
that area expensive?
You had to pay to do the tour. So I went with the intention of doing 2 days, and then I'm like, no, this is way too cool. So I added another two, I think. So I had 4 days, 4 days total. And he just took me around on the motorbike. So I think that was about 400 $400 or something like that. But it was worth every penny. What about you, Miles, with your Ethiopia experience? You had
Well, I lived just outside of Arba Minch for a few months, and I
was
hearing your
that where
story.
it was? Okay.
Arba Minch is the top of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mountain there,
with the
like where Bole, the national park is, Bole.
mhm.
But I really regret not paying the money and going down there to do it. And it's like I was there for 2.5 months, and I never got down there because at the time, like this was 2004, it was really expensive. It was 200 to 300 US per day,
Oh shit! Wow.
and then each time you took a photo, you had to give them $1. That was the rule. And I was like, yeah, yeah, haha. They're like, no, no, no joke. You
That's
have to
still
have like
that's still the rule.
51. And I was like, oh, 51s, okay. And so we didn't do it, and we just were hoping that it would somehow, happen organically, and it didn't. But I'm very jealous to hear your stories about it because I would have loved to have gone down there. Like my favorite Ethiopia experience was we went out to Harar, which was like far east, close to the Somali border, and you got to feed hyenas
Yeah,
from sticks.
I missed that. That looks super
And that
cool.
was, I mean, that town was incredible. So that was like one of my favorite experiences. But also living in a village was cool, but still, I'm so jealous of that. So yeah.
What did you say about the king? No, was it the when you left they made you a bowl of raw meat or something?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, when we finished, we were doing a volunteer program, and so they asked us because we hadn't had meat in a couple weeks, so they sacrificed the cow, and I was all excited for a nice steak, and we realized in the village they don't actually cook it because it's not what they do. So they just gave me some raw cow, and the chief gave me the lung, which is probably the grossest thing to eat.
Oh,
After watching the massacre of the cow 20 minutes earlier, and then getting to have the lung, and all the female volunteers luckily got to say they wouldn't do it, and but the one male had to eat the lung, and yeah, it was a pretty horrendous experience. I'll tell you that.
awesome. Oh my God.
Chris, how do you go back to, we can call it civilian life? Because you're gonna, from those experiences, and then you go back and you're dealing with other people working in Norway. They may be Norwegians, they may be other foreign workers, and they probably are talking about the football scores for 4 months. Huh?
That's for sure. But no, I don't mind it at all. For me, this is my relaxing time. Like working hard, like all these crazy hours. This is when I get to relax and my mind is at peace, and I can make plans. And yeah, it's the traveling is never the vacation. Like that's always hard work and headaches and planning and logistics and stuff. But yeah, Norway is nice and just peaceful, and just go to work, do your stuff, and go home. So yeah, I can quite happily just change as long as it's not for a long time. Like 4 months, I'm chomping at the bit and ready to go. So,
Yeah, certainly long-term travel. The longest trip I've ever taken is 5 weeks, and I exhausted myself so much that by the third week I was really ready for it to be done, and I've not had any. And I just know I couldn't, even if I tried to say I'll go 2 months and I will only pace it at this, I'd end up still packing in too much. So I know that's absolutely not for me. Speaking of time to plan and all that, a giant trip you took was Eastern Europe, all the way into the stands. So talk about what you did and how you put that together.
yeah, that's a long time ago. So must have been in 2001, I think. So I'd been working in Israel for about 6 months. I was in London, and a girl told me that she'd been working in Israel, and I was like, "Wow, that sounds really cool." She's like, "Yeah, just go. It's no problem." So I turned up and checked into a hostel, and they had a system that at 8 a.m. in the morning, if you want to work, you just go downstairs and wait there, and people that need workers will come. So every day you had something different, maybe landscape gardening or construction or furniture removals. And yeah, maybe the job's for one day, maybe it's for a week, depending on what they need done. And they would just, you would hope that they wouldn't take you alone and that they needed a couple of you, because then you would have a lot more fun. So maybe they need 3 or 4 of you, and then you just, yeah, play around. So yeah, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was still a really awesome experience. So yeah, left from Israel, took a boat to Greece, and then went up through Eastern Europe, up all the way up to like Estonia, I think. And then I met one English guy there, and he's like, let's go to Russia. Or he was going to Russia anyway, so I decided to join him. And we, like, Russia was just really one of the most crazy places you can go. It's there's always something happens there. If you want stories, that's the place.
It always involves a dash cam and a clear bottle.
That's for sure. And anyway, so we got there. We're having an amazing time, and he's like, "Let's go to the stands." And I mean, this is 2001. I hadn't even heard of these places, sort of. So I'm like, okay. So we took the train down. We got the Kazakhstan visa, I think, and then took the train all the way down to the border. And I'd lost my Russian visa. At the time, it was a loose leaf visa, like they didn't stamp it in the passport, and it had fallen out. And I was like, oh, no problem. I'll just pay the guard to get out. And so we got to the border, and the control guy comes on, and he's like, visa. And I'm like, niet visa. And I tried to give him, I'm like, oh, can I just buy one for $100? And right in front of his face. And he's like, huh. I'm like, can I buy one for $200? And I take out $200. And this is southern Russia, like it's a really poor area. And he just laughs in my face and goes on the radio. And I'm like, shit. So they pull me off the train and let the train continue. So my friend continued into Kazakhstan. And I got detained at the border, and I had to sleep in the barracks with the soldiers. And it ended up taking 10 days to get the new visa. So I would go in the morning to the immigration place. Nobody spoke a word of English, of course. And every morning, the guys would make their own system of a number system. Like, if you're first, then you can go away and come back. And I was always first. And they're like, no, you don't have a number, because I didn't understand. So yeah, I got a lot of arguing, but I would always get in first. But yeah, so also without the visa, you're not allowed to stay in a hotel. So I had the police knocking down my door in the middle of the night. What are you doing here? Where's your visa and stuff? So that was super fun. And then eventually I'm just starting to go absolutely crazy, because it's been 7-8 days and nobody's speaking any English. And then all of a sudden, this girl saw me inside the building, and she's like, "Are you okay?" In like perfect English. And I'm just like, oh my God, like that's all she needed to say is I could see how well she spoke English. I'm like, no, I'm very not okay. She's like, okay, I'm your guardian angel. And that was her exact words. And I was just like, oh my God, thank you so much. So she went in and organized everything. And magically the next day I had the exit visa. So I had to go all the way back from this little town, Astrakhan, all the way back to Moscow by train. And then
how long was that?
I can't remember, a long time. But by then my Kazakhstan visa wasn't valid. So that's why I had to go back to Moscow and fly over Kazakhstan to meet my friend in Kyrgyzstan. So then we needed to get all the Stan visas. So I did absolutely nothing. This guy, he's on EPS, Dominic Earnshaw, amazing guy, just super smart. And he was like a kid at the time, maybe 20. And he took care of all the visas. So I did absolutely nothing. He just took my passport and fixed everything. So we had to stay in Bishkek for 3 weeks, because that's how long it took. And it was Turkmenistan, of course, that was the problem.
Yeah.
I just keep saying, come on, let's go. And he's like, we can't get the Turkmenistan visa. So yeah, eventually we got it. Went to Uzbekistan, and then went on an aid truck over the Pamir Mountains into Tajikistan because there was no other way. And on the way, we bought like 13 loaves of bread because it was going to be a long trip. And then the drivers start giving them away as bribes. So at the checkpoints. So after about 3 hours, we've got no bread for the next 2-day trip. And then we got up into the mountains. It was a little, we decided we needed somewhere to sleep. So the guys just go and knock on the door. Hi, can they stay in your house? So we ended up sleeping in a bed. It was just one long bed. And there was like grandma, grandpa, a couple of kids, and then us all in the same bed. So this was an area where they hadn't had money for that long. It had been all on bartering and stuff. So we ended up, I think we gave them like 50 cents or something ridiculous like that. And that was just, they were so happy with it. Yeah, and then from there we flew to Turkmenistan and went through there. And then, so the plan was to go through Afghanistan and finish out through Pakistan, and that would be the end of the trip. So we got these Afghanistan visas in Uzbekistan, and we arrived at the border, and that was scary, like especially back then. It wasn't such a good time. So we got stamped out of Turkmenistan, walked across no man's land to the border, and then it was I guess it was a Taliban official, and we show him the visas, and he's like, wait, I go and ask Taliban. We're like, okay. So he drove all the way to Herat. So we were there for a couple of hours, and then comes back and he's like, Taliban say no. And we're like, but we can't go back. So, obviously he didn't care about that. Like, he was super nice, but he's like, they said, no, you can't come in. So we're walking back and we're like, shit, Turkmenistan is not the kind of country that you want to say, hi, can you unstamp our visa? So they eventually, like after a lot of talking and a lot of going to other officials and stuff, we're like, please, we need to come back in. So they canceled the exit stamp and let us back in. If they hadn't, then big problem.
I'm thinking of that no man's land crossing into Turkmenistan. It's about 2 kilometers from where I crossed in Uzbekistan, and I had that thought about I can't go back. They're not gonna. That was a hard step to buy in Uzbekistan.
Of all the places you don't want to get.
You're gonna ride that one.
But yeah, he's the guard in Afghanistan had said, if you try again tomorrow, it should be okay. So when we're going back to the Turkmenistan side, they're like, we'll do this, but we're not going to do it again. So if you want to go tomorrow, then
you don't get a punch card.
Okay, we forget it. We forget Afghanistan. So we ended up flying out of Turkmenistan and finishing the trip and flying to London from there. So, yeah, and there's just so many stories along the way of that, especially Russia. Just everything you did in Russia was just. One time, I checked into a hotel, and as I went to put the key in the door, the phone's already ringing, and I'm like, well, that's strange. Maybe it's reception, and I've forgotten something. So I turn the key, open the door, go in, pick up the phone. I'm like, hello? It's like, hello. My name is Svetlana. Would you like some company? Like, I hadn't even opened the door yet, for God's sake. It's obviously a first come, first served situation. So.
Wow. So that's I learned it's a QE saying very not okay.
How long was that trip continuously? Like, how long have you been traveling continuously?
That was a big trip. I had exactly a month in Russia, I think, and then the 3 weeks in Kyrgyzstan, Then the rest of the stands were probably 2 or 3 days each. And yeah, and then yeah, Eastern Europe was
Another
3,
couple
4,
weeks.
no, even more, probably maybe another month. So
So like 4 to 6 months straight.
that trip probably 3 months. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, that's hard.
Has your guardian angel ever reappeared?
I've actually still on my Facebook. Actually, it's funny.
Oh
We
wow!
somehow
Okay,
ended
we
up on
gotta
Facebook.
bring
So,
her in for
yeah,
episode. Uh,
for a big
with your travel companion and your guardian angel for
thank you.
a whole episode on that trip again. That does sound
Let's
incredible.
get Atlanta while we're at it too, right? Make it a whole group.
Yeah, yeah.
She's also on my Facebook. We
All
keep a
right,
big
guys, this is getting out of control. We're gonna call it a wrap there.
before bad thing gets in.
All right, thank you, Chris, for all you're
Awesome.
doing on EPS, and thank you for joining us tonight, as well as Miles Walker. Thank you for joining, and wish everybody a good weekend. I think the teaser for our Monday episode is "Hey Now," and you can guess who we're going to interview for that. So thank
I've
you, and
heard
have a
that,
great
I've heard
weekend.
that a couple of times. I've got a sneaky suspicion.
Bye bye.
Good old Rick. Good. Thank you so much, Stefan. It's really fun. Take care.